Hi, my name is Rachel Cheshuk, and this is my case study for EDL 850. So the problem, what do we know? Miss Walker is in her second year of teaching in an affluent area with secure financial means, so the parents are doctors, lawyers, they all have money essentially. Many students and parents had complained about the stress and rigor of Miss Walker's classes in her first year and as well as in her second. Ms. Walker received an email over the weekend with a link to a website with highly suggestive and critical comments about the rigor of her classes. And one of the comments on the website was, "Who wants Miss Walker to disappear?" Miss Walker took this as a threat and actually felt her life was in danger. So she called her principal, Dr. Forbes, and made him aware of the situation, and he said that he will investigate it further. So what do we still need to know? We need to know who sent the email. We also need to know who created the website. Also, have Walker and Forbes both documented the complaints? Has Forbes documented the complaints from parents and students in his office, and has Walker documented things that are happening in her classroom? Also, they mentioned that Forbes had helped Walker implement some strategies in her classroom to help lower the stress level and create better student-teacher relationships. However, the case study also states that Walker has not been able to successfully implement these. So why is that? We don't get a lot of information there, so the question is, why has Walker not been able to successfully implement these? And then also, how do we prevent this from happening again? How do we create those better student-teacher relationships to prevent Walker from, or any teacher, from being threatened? So the problem is that a teacher has been sent a link to a threatening website by email. She feels threatened, and therefore she is unable to teach her students effectively. So, plan of action. First thing, I would want to gather the preceding evidence. One from Walker, so any of that, if she has any documented examples of things that are happening in the classroom, of students making snide comments or, different, have they been turning in their work, have they been listening, what's been going on in the classroom. Also from the principal, his contacts with parents, what their complaints were, his contacts with students, what their complaints were, and then also talk to students about what they've seen going on in the classroom, talk with them individually, and potentially talk to them about the website and whether or not they have seen it or if they contributed. I would also contact the district technology department, which Dr. Forbes mentioned in his phone call, but I think looking at the email source, the website source, and if there's been any precedent for this happening in the past. So has a website or something been posted before threatening a teacher, and how was it handled in the past? Next, I would also want to improve the student-teacher relationships in Walker's classroom. If nothing changes, this is just going to continue to happen. So we need to look back on what has worked and what has not. So those past attempts at Dr. Forbes trying to help Walker, why haven't those worked? Let's try some new techniques, as well as let's get some feedback from Walker and students about what's working and what's not. In resolving the issue, it is important to promote the academic success and personal well-being of every student. So we should base our decisions on what is best for the students. So we need to talk with the students, we need to talk with Ms. Walker, and we need to implement improvement strategies. Because right now, one, Ms. Walker cannot teach effectively if she feels threatened or not trusted by her students. And also, the students and parents have had major complaints, so there's obviously something not working. It's not necessarily a fault of Miss Walker's, but there is some sort of disconnect between what she sees as being rigor and helpful to the students and pushing them, and the students feeling like it's attacking them or attacking their grades. So when I was reading this, I was thinking this sounded a lot like my school district. Blue Valley is a very affluent school district. There's a lot of money, lots of parent involvement. I was also feeling for Miss Walker a little bit because it sounds like she's really just trying to push her students and implement rigor into her classroom, but she's having trouble getting this message across to students. Students see it as an attack. They don't see it as effective. So I was also valuing the students and parents' want for good grades. because I was that student. I wanted the good grade. I want the A. So I understand when someone is pushing you so much that you feel like they are just trying to lower your grade and not actually learn. Um, I feel for Ms. Walker's challenging experience. Being a first year teacher is hard. I know she's just starting her second year, but those first couple years are really tough for a new teacher. And, it's challenging anyway. And I think everybody kind of goes through a tough experience. Maybe not a website being made about them and how terrible they are, but something goes on. Also, the position Dr. Forbes is in, he is trying to keep his parents happy, keep the students happy, and keep his teachers happy. He hired Miss Walker for a reason, and he is trying to better her as well as better the students and better the community. So a couple things are still unresolved. Who created the website, and was it just meant to be a prank, or is there an actual threat? Honestly, we're not sure that it is actually a student. There's no indication that a student made it. It could have been a parent. I don't think we should rule that out. How do we prevent something like this from happening again? How do we prevent threats from being posted or sent to teachers, or just for the students to feel like they're not being heard and need to do this instead? Also, what does this mean for Miss Walker going forward? Is she going to be able to go back into the classroom and teach effectively, be able to trust her students? How is she going to change to make sure that the environment gets improved? So, couple reflections. Component 1. By understanding that there is a problem and handling it in a calm, rational way, we are promoting the academic success of every student. We calmed Miss Walker down, knowing that she could not do her job effectively if she felt threatened. We created a plan to investigate the matter further, and we told Miss Walker of this plan in order to calm her down. And we also do not assume anyone is the culprit. We have plans to talk to the student that Miss Walker said could be responsible, but also his friends, and also just other students in general, to make sure that we do this right. We don't accuse anyone without any evidence. Also, by not assuming that a specific student is the culprit, we adhere to ethical principles and professional norms. We listened to Ms. Walker, we heard her complaints, we tried to calm her down, we looked at the email and website ourselves to draw our own conclusions from it, and we also plan to investigate the matter further to make sure that we are adhering to those professional norms and treating each teacher and student with respect. One way we demonstrated personal and professional code of ethics was by making ourselves available to our teachers on the weekends for matters of emergency. Ms. Walker was able to call Dr. Forbes on a Sunday afternoon, which is pretty impressive. So obviously he gave them the information to be able to contact him in times of need. We also listened to Ms. Walker's issue all the way through and looked at the evidence ourselves to determine our own sort of plan of action. She obviously was a little hysterical because she felt her life was being threatened and this was made about her. It's understandable why she was upset, but we need to think about our own personal code of ethics and think about everyone that is involved, all the stakeholders, before we make any rash decisions. And then finally, we implemented a plan to address the situation in a non-accusatory manner. Again, we want to talk to those students. We want to look back at all of the records of complaints. We want to send that stuff to the technology department to figure it out. But we need to make sure that we are not taking sides initially. We need to gather all the information first before we make a decision.